I'm Drew Lentz. I'm with Cape Networks. I do business development and help geek out with these guys. You know, I know some of you all, and some of y'all know me, but for those that don't, that's cool. But what we're going to talk about is some of the neat things we can do with some of the features that we've introduced. So, you know, I started using this product as an end user. You know, I've been following, kind of what's been going on in this industry for a little while. And my first case study with it was when I got a handful of the sensors and I deployed them at one of my projects that I had put out there, monitoring a couple hundred access points. And what I liked about it, other than just the very blunt, is it working, is it not working side of it, is what it allows me to do from a distributed kind of solution, what I can do if I've got sites everywhere. So I'm going to go into some of the features that make us unique on that. So up here on the top left, there's a map. There's a little map icon. So if you click on that, that shows you a map global view. One of the cool things about this sensor is as soon as you get it and it jumps online, it uses a Google API to determine location. And it's like down to the corner of the room that you're standing in, which is totally creepy but really awesome. So it doesn't need GPS to run. It uses that API on the back end. So when you fire it up, it's immediately going to tell you where it's deployed. And in this case, you see, in this system, we've got some sensors over in London, some down in Miami, up in New York, Chicago, Dallas, and then some over on the West Coast. And what's cool is I can immediately determine that there's an issue going on the West Coast. But if I want to look at it a little bit differently, I can view those sensors just by group. And I can say, okay, Chicago's up, Dallas is up, DC is up, London's up. And that same smart hover that we were talking about, you can put your mouse over it and it'll give you the quick breakdown of what's going on in each one of those areas. Now, if I just want to group it by status, I can group it by status. And in this case, I see that everything seems to be working good, except I've got an issue down in San Francisco. So that's pretty interesting. I'll go back to the map view. And on the map view, I can click on the device there, and I can see that my West Coast looks okay. San Jose is looking good. LA is looking good. But again, I've got an issue in San Francisco. Now, in San Francisco, when I click on it, I see that there's a high retry rate. And I see that there's high channel utilization. And this is one of the things that we talked about with the power of PCAP, right? So my signal strength looks good, my bit rate looks great, my band isn't flip-flopping around, my channel looks fine, I'm on 11, BSSID, I'm connected to 1 AP. Everything looks pretty fantastic, but I've got 46% retry rate and 76% channel utilization. So let's take a look at what's going on. In a situation like this, you know it's definitely an air interface issue, right? This is not something that can be done or that you can predict from the network side. So I've got my Wi-Spy here, and if you look, what's going to happen if you check out channel 11, fire up your G2 there and see what channel 11 looks like. Channel 11 looks pretty obnoxious. Basically, channel 11 in this room is completely saturated right now, probably because there's a Wi-Fi pineapple in the room that's turned on and it's just flooding the channel. It's absolutely destroying channel 11 in this room. And I know about it now because I've got the sensor deployed and I can see something weird going on. I can see an anomaly happening. We wanted to make sure we showed this off as a live demo for you guys. And so it's pretty fantastic that you can quickly determine that there's something happening with regards to RF. And that's pretty neat. One of the other things that we can talk about, well, I guess what's neat about that is that if you've got a tech that's on site, and you have a technician or someone who has a G2, you can deploy them out there. If you've got someone who can go on site and find out what's going on, that works out pretty well too. But let's say that you don't, right? Let's say that you don't have the ability to do that. One of the things that I'm going to show is that real quickly I can go in here and I can copy this IP address. You see that? I just click real quick and it copies. Well, what am I going to do with an IP address? You guys know what this tool is? Mm-hmm. Yay! So what we've been able to do is we are now working, this is in active mode here. We're going to open up Wi-Fi Explorer Pro. We're going to add a remote sensor. We're going to paste in the IP address of that sensor that's over there. We're going to change it from active mode into IP mode. And now I'm using the Cape Network sensor as an external sensor on Wi-Fi Explorer. So this is a fun feature that we thought we would add because not everybody has the ability to be on site everywhere at once. And our sensor gives you the ability to have your eyes and your ears pretty much everywhere it is. But not a lot of people can afford the tool set that's necessary to take advantage of doing this. And so I'm almost positive that all of you have Wi-Fi Explorer installed on your computers right now. And that being said, this is a fun way to do that. You know, as long as you can attach to that IP address, you can see what's going on. And you can see that Skynet is up here just obliterating 2.4. So that's a fun way to do it. But what's pretty cool about that, I'm gonna go ahead and stop that capture there. It's pretty neat, man. That's a great feature that Adrian introduced, and we're really happy to be able to put that on there. But what's really cool about that is if I go back from a group view, one of the things that our sensor allows you to do is group those sensors together. Like I said, we can group DC, Dallas, Chicago, and so on and so forth. But I can also go into users. And in user management, I can assign specific, what's the word I'm looking for here? Rights to each one of those groups. So let's say I'm a hotel chain, right? And I've got hotels all across the U.S. I've got them in different areas everywhere. And let's say that we're experiencing this issue in San Francisco at a specific hotel. We can build those user groups so that the front desk can have read-only access only to their sensors that are part of that hotel. Likewise, if there's a hotel ownership group that controls all the hotels in San Francisco, we can roll that up into a user group that gives them the tier to be able to see all of their hotels in just the San Francisco market. But let's say I'm the flag, let's say I'm the main brand. I can look at it from a global perspective and see how all of my hotels are doing all at once. So we give you the ability to have that tiered user services with any group of sensors that you put in there all the way down to one. Go ahead.
Are the alerts the same way too? So only alerts for whatever that user, what group they're in, they only get those alerts?
That's a good question.
Yes.
Yes. Yep. That's a good question in short for I'm not sure. Let me ask David. But it's a pretty fun way that we've tried to integrate a lot of the tool sets that you all already have with things that we know will make your lives easier. Because I really like the point that David was making where there's a lot of certified and trained wireless professionals, right? But that's not everyone, and there's more people that are not certified in it than there are certified in it. And giving them tools like this gives them the ability to see those big red and green squares and then know when it's time to call in the experts to do something with it.
I have another sort of question that kind of ties into that.
Please.
So we use Adrian's Wi-Fi Explorer Pro. Love it.
Yep.
You link to it.
Yes.
Someone asked, what about for those people who just use MetaGeek's Channelizer or something? Is there a way to have that same remote link into another Windows-based tool for people who don't have, who haven't learned that Macs are better?
This,
I think, let me...
What do you say?
I went there.
I know
how many PCs are at the table right now? I just want to take account. I was that guy too.
let me answer that real quick. Let me answer that real quick. So, I mean, there's a lot of tools and a lot of equipment and a lot of investment that you've all made in existing tools, and we want to basically make your return on investment higher by having our devices or having our product. So. You can look out for some more integrations to come. Nothing else to announce today, except actually we can say that we now have Zap running on our device.
Yeah.
So that's if you have access points, for example, that run Zap, then you can use those to.
How about clients or WPC Odroids run Zap too? So.
Yeah, our image on those Odroids don't, but yeah, there are plenty of other clients
now can be an endpoint to.
Yes, our sensors now are Zap endpoint.
iPerf standard on the sensors and Zap as well.
So will that allow us to run an ad hoc iPerf or Zap test from an iPerf or Zap client to the sensor?
Not an ad hoc iPerf test. But I believe a Zap, you can run Zap to the sensor, right?
With iPerf, you can set reverse iPerf from the sensor to any iPerf server of your choosing.
Right.
It'll bounce back to.
Yeah.
But can I, on my iPad, go, here's the IP address of the sensor, and
that's a great question. And
either
it on
type
something.
of test?
Due to security, we don't have any ports open on this device.
Okay.
So we cannot SS a SSH into it. So that's why you cannot do that.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's come up a couple different times with some of our customers is the security of the device itself. if you're introducing another device on your network, especially with the 3G connection that can backhaul out into the world, does that create a security risk? And the answer is no, because even if it just has a 3G connection, it's not broadcasting or beaconing any SSIDs. It's not an access point. Even though it's got the same, similar form factor, this is not an access point, this is a client. So no one can connect on the air interface. Now, if you're connected on the network side, and you've got Ethernet that runs into the back of it because you're powering it via PoE or because you want to use it as a sensor on the Ethernet side, what's great about that is there's no ports that are open on this. So no matter if you try and get into it, you're not going to be able to get into it because we just don't allow any inbound traffic from network devices. All we're doing is we're acting purely like a client. So from a security perspective, it's not going to open up any backdoors or any holes into your network.
So then how are you doing being able to look at it as a remote sensor in Wi-Fi Explorer?
So Wi-Fi Explorer is on, that's the only one, I believe. I'm trying to think about the way that it works. This is sending data out.
Yeah.
We're interpreting we're using this as the target to receive data from. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah. Wi-Fi, this is being determined, this is going to be, this is sending data out. We're sending it initiate response into it saying, okay, send data out, and then we're attaching to this response from the IP.
Gotcha.
That makes sense?
That makes sense.
So all around pretty fun stuff. There was something else. I don't remember what it was. Questions? We have a few minutes. As you guys have seen, we've done a lot with the software and with the services, and part of that is the feedback that we get from you guys. You can see I cleared out that alarm, dirty culprit, right? Not doing nothing but flooding channels. And I mean, that's standard out of the box config, right? I mean, you guys have used this tool before, so you know what it looks like. But you can see now that I've cleared it out, if you, look at that, man. 26%, well now it's at 26, it's dropping. Now the retry rate's down to 1.4. We don't leave it on long enough, but what's crazy is when you leave it on long enough, it really starts to affect the throughput. So if we were running YouTube tests on this, for example, YouTube would have started failing because of that retry rate, and Dropbox would start failing because of that retry rate, so there's a direct correlation.
Quick question, Drew. Target market, so indoor carpeted spaces, outdoor stadiums.
Everywhere.
Where does it go and where does it not go now well?
And due to form factor, right? I mean, indoor primarily.
No, I mean from a functional, you're going to derive value out of it, not so much just where it can mount, but where is it really shining through for you guys, and where does it need work?
Well, primarily anyone with a large or distributed network where site visits are very difficult or prohibitive for some reason. So we're seeing kind of two real segments that are, where there's a lot of demand. One was the large-scale managed service providers. We've got multi-tenancy to enable them to run a lot of CAPE sensors for their customers in a distributed way and log into it, but also allow their customers to log in directly as well. And we're also seeing a lot of demand in the stadium space, where it's really important to be able to see in as close to real time as possible what the user's experience is, because it changes so much from when the stadium is empty to when it's full, because of RF, but also just because of usage. And what's really been interesting for us is to see, it's not just about like the fan experience at these venues. It's also about internal systems. Really, Wi-Fi is becoming the spine on which so many organizations operate. And stadiums are no other, that run ticketing systems on Wi-Fi and all kinds of other internal systems and practice sessions, their corporate offices, etc.
I think one of the big things that we're seeing, and I mean, you guys, it's been reflected in the last 2 days, right? We're not necessarily looking at the hardware so much as what we're looking, we're looking at the services and the capabilities of those services. And the thing that comes back, and I know it's been mentioned before also, is that when you've got access points that have the capability to basically fix themselves, when you have networks that can determine what's going on and fix themselves, those are great individual components, but it's looking at the overall view from the user experience side that's where we're focused, right? We want to make sure that the users are happy, regardless of how they're getting from point A to B. If the Wi-Fi is working, if the network's working, if the HTTP is working, we want to make sure that entire experience from start to finish is complete. So we feel like it's, as a third-party vendor, right? We we like the fact that we are agnostic. We'll work with the system because we're not monitoring specific systems. We're monitoring how your users and how those clients are attaching to your network. And as of 3 weeks ago, we can roam on AT&T in the US also. So I just found that out from Ross over Slack. So that's fantastic. So yay!
I've got a question. As a overlay, the issue with overlays is always what's the ratio of sensors to APs?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
So depending on the environment, you mentioned some high density in areas versus carpet areas. What are the ratios that you're seeing that work?
So I'm not going to use the it depends, right? But depending on the environment.
Everyone looks at me.
I don't want to look at him, you know. But honestly, the environment that you're deploying in is going to help you determine that. You know, we're looking a lot. School districts right now are doing phenomenal things. You know, to make sure that the network is capable for kids to do testing, to make sure that in healthcare, to make sure that all the devices work. So depending on how many devices and what you're checking, it's important to be able to replicate the user experience as best as possible. And that, I'm not going to say it's 1 AP per classroom, but it may be 1 AP per classroom, or 1 sensor per classroom. It may be 1 per hallway or corridor, depending on what you're trying to check and how you're trying to check.
Is there some physical, actual requirement that we could perhaps go into ECHO and say, I need to run a report to show me, I want to place sensors, they need to see this much, so if you set your requirements to this, it'll show where they should go?
Coming soon.
Not
that's
yet.
actually that's something that's sitting with us. UC and the guys have asked for that data, so that's coming to ECHO sometime.
Yeah.
soon.
Again, we want to make sure. David mentioned it. We want to make sure that we maximize what you guys have already spent on your tool sets, and we recognize that you guys have spent significant amount of money, whether it's on air checks or whether it's on, on software. So we do want to make sure that we can build those partnerships with people who are open to doing that. Same being said, when we talk about the specific vendors, one of the things that was phenomenal to hear from one of the other presenters is that it's not just about one solution or the other. This isn't about, well, I make the best AP in the market, so you don't need anything else. Or we make the best client sensor on the market, so you don't need an AP that can do this. It's a combination of the two, I really feel. Side eye to the bosses. But you know what I mean? I feel like that in order to get the full picture, you have to be able to see the full picture. And top-down management or top-down overall monitoring of your network is going to give you a great view. And I mean, the guys out there are doing some phenomenal stuff with it, with buzzwords that I promised myself I wouldn't use, and it's great and it's fantastic and that's cool, but you're still not seeing it from the client side. And as we all know, the client side is it can change in a heartbeat. And so yeah.
So I had a question, I love the work that's gone into the interface. I think there's competitors out there they don't look nearly as clean or and they're difficult to use.
UI teams, we have an amazing UI team. Our UI UX team is phenomenal.
So guys, my question is, can you guys share anything of the other stuff you're looking at? Like, I know that there's people that are in this space that are now doing for instance, an SDK, right, to get sort of app level performance for quality of user experience, and there's different form factors. Is there anything like that you can share or touch on?
That's a CEO question.
If you ask me again in a few weeks, I'd be able to talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
But yeah, we're busy working on a number of things with partners who it would be premature for us to talk about it without them.
Okay.
It can be said that we're looking at options. You have to. It's what's going to make the most sense at the end of the day to grab that user data or the client experience or user experience data.
So once I get all that data, do I have programmatic access to the dashboard to collect that data? If I have a system that I'm using for other stuff and I want to be able to pull that type of data
This is where I do the Alexa demo?
No. But
Yeah.
is that, do I have access to the APIs and all that?
You don't currently, but we've built the APIs to enable that. We haven't yet exposed that publicly. There's a few things that we want to add first before we do that, but it is architected with that in mind. But today, you can download raw data, all of your raw data, and something that we were thinking about showing, but we didn't get to today, is looking at it in analytics tools like Tableau, where you can just basically pull in all of the data and get some really great insights longitudinally.
And that data, if you saw where I clicked in there, when you hit that button to download it, last day, last week, 2 weeks, all time is 18 months, I believe.
Yeah, up to 18 months so far.
18 months. So it's pretty neat that you can look into all of that.